Hello, welcome to the Opinionistics. I'm your host, John Malone. In this episode, no co-host, because reasons apparently. Introducing from Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Machiel Hoke.
Thank you, John, for having me.
You're welcome. So, what is it that you do for a living?
I'm trying to make ends meet by doing a job that my father already did, being an accountant. But my life mission is being an author and spreading a message in the world. So I would like to to earn my living with that and get it rolling. And I'm doing my steps with that.
Okay, sounds good. What are some of the opportunities and jobs that you enjoy doing the most?
Well, I enjoy actually talking to people and making people happy or helping people look at something in a different way. I think that's the thing I like most. If I talk to someone and they have either a problem or they deal with something and I'm able to let them look at it in a different way, a different angle, different potential, not even solution, but a way to just perceive it. And if that works, that's wow, that's magic for me.
Huh? Cool, cool. Is there anything you're currently working on or up to recently?
Well, I turned author. I wrote a book about what was called The Girl Who Changed the World. As a child, I was fascinated by the world and I didn't understand it. So I wanted to discover the secret of life when I was 6 or 7. But then at a certain point, of course, you go to study, you go to work and career, blah, blah, blah. So it took me a long time before an inner voice said to me, hey, you got to go back to searching this secret of life again. I did. It was a 10-year journey and I wanted to go to write it, or at least to tell people about that in a book, in a story, not my story, but a different, very just nice story. And then I published it, and at some point it became a bestseller where I live in the Netherlands. And then I thought, hey, if this book is worthwhile, I also want to change the world, like the girl this book is about. So I wanted to bring it to America, and I just brought it to America, had it published, and it's now well trying to get attention in America. But getting it there was a long travel with a lot of falling down and standing up again. But that was quite funny to do. So I'm currently trying to get my book sold in the US.
Ah, very nice, very nice. And what inspired you to write this book?
Well, my let's say inability to cope with the world the way it was. I've never been able to understand why I was bullied at school. I was always different, but I never understood why people are able or capable of doing harm to each other, or even killing each other, killing other human beings for being different. I couldn't understand that. And today the world is about a lot of areas where people are killing each other, or at least people being killed for being either different race, different country, different religion, whatever. I couldn't understand that. And I wanted to understand it. I want to understand the way the world is. And that was such a deep fascination for me. I wanted to know why that is and whether there's a purpose or whether there's a reason or whether there's something that makes it more tolerable than what I thought then. So there was just a fire inside me that just wanted to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you relate to
Any
that?
po actually, yes, I can actually relate to that because the thing is, my whole life, although I have lived a very good life, I have a roof over my head, and I've met some great people and managed to get along with them. There have been times that's been really rough for me, and me personally, I'm not sure why they're like this. Presumably, I'm like, well, maybe they may not understand why people like me to begin with, or there's something in my personality or the way I speak they don't like. And that's alright, it happens. Everyone can have their opinions, and it's okay to express it, so long as it doesn't result to some kind of violence. So
Yeah,
I have mixed experiences, mostly good, but of course, when the hard time comes, it gets in deep. And
yeah.
I've learned so much from the hard times that's gotten to me so deep that I've managed to control and managed to find ways to cope with these incidences in the most calming manner that I can possibly.
Wow. And can you even find something like a purpose or a reason or something like that makes up for those periods in time when you were so in that situation where you were so, let's say, put down by people? Is there something that you can say, well, it helped me to, I'm not sure,
Yeah, I think learning from that, it tells me that no matter how good of a person you are and how intelligent or skillful you are in positively contributing to your community and society as a whole, there's going to be people that will have your doubts about you. There's going to be people that have their opinions that will view you negatively and unfavorably. Yeah, I do know a couple of people, one in particular from somewhere in North Carolina. He's working on a project to bring back a social media platform, and so far looking pretty good. And what I've known about this lad, that he's the nicest guy around. He is very intelligent and he's very creative as well. However, I have seen at times that there are a few people that, regardless of how nice he is and how talented he is, they're looking at ways to antagonize him. They're trying to make him out as some kind of person that, well, I'm not sure how to describe it, but and I know there's other ways, there's other names, but whatever these names are, it puts him in a very negative light. Like, I know he would never do these kind of things. He would never say such things. But yet there are going to be a few amount of people, despite his talents and his kindness, they wanted to antagonize him because they don't like what he is saying, what he is contributing. And for that reason, they're trying to they're kind of bring him down to make them feel better about themselves. But regardless, but of course, during those hardships, he has found his way to clear his name and trying to debunk any misunderstanding that has ever came about him. And for that reason, I am proud for where he came from and the achievements he has achieved. And I'm so proud to be working with him to revive this app. And
Wow.
hopefully, with these experiences, we could actually translate these experiences that he has had, as well as mine, onto this revised social media platform, giving clarity to social media users about what is going on around our world and what is a perspective that some people have about that incident.
And especially that perspective, I think you as well would love to change the perspective of the other people that are actually bullying you or taking you down or antagonizing you, as you said. And first, it starts with yourself trying to understand why they do that, and it doesn't make any sense why they do it, but still, if you understand why they're doing it, sometimes that gives you an opening to think, okay, this is what they're mostly afraid of, or it triggers them in a certain way that remembers them of something bad in their childhood or before. So trying to understand them, even though you don't like to understand it because they're being just annoying or bullies or even worse, also gives potential a solution or a step forward in well, finding the common ground or finding the connection. Sometimes it's impossible, of course, with people that are just open to nothing. And then you should best avoid them, of course. But I hope my aim indeed would be to be as much as possible try to connect people in that way, to say, well, how can you find the common ground given the fact you're all human, you all want the same, but sometimes we don't want the same, and then it's very hard to find that common ground indeed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And of course, whatever happened to me at the time, I just know for one thing that the reason why they're doing this to me and they say the things about me, it's mainly not just about the things I say or do. There's something in their past experience, like you said. And of course, these people that they have encountered that reignited these negative thoughts, they might possibly project the same personality, maybe have the same body structure or facial looks as I would. And yeah, I think, and I know, and I have mentioned that I have made very great friends in the past. And of course, there have been times that I don't usually say it because, well, that's my life. I'm used to that.
Mhm.
There have been a handful of women that have been attracted to me and they seem to, well, I wouldn't say they're being flirtatious. However, they do see me as some I'm simply like a chick magnet or a woman magnet that kind
Wow.
of attracts women in whatever ways possible. I don't even try. In
Mhm.
fact, I've been so used to it, I've actually become kind of annoyed. It's not that I don't want to, it's just, if you've lived a life where everything's been handed to you so often and so consistently,
Yeah.
eventually you'll get bored of it. And once you get bored of it and it's still happening, you might get annoyed and try to distance yourself from that. So
And while you're annoyed of that, a lot of people are jealous or envy you. It's always unfair that way, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
do think, and this is coming from a guy that is at least decent looking, that I think life is unfair comes down to how people look. The
Yeah.
more attractive you are, the more easier life is for you. And the easier it is to make friends. And also, the easier it is to be in a relationship. And the less attractive you are, the harder your life is, and the harder it is to find a relationship.
But
So,
attraction is both your package, your appearance, your physical looks, of course, as well as your energy, your character, your eyes, the way what you radiate, the soul you are, how kind or loving you are, whatever you bring to the world. There's so much to it.
yes, absolutely.
And to me, it sounds like you are someone who is intrinsic, and you are radiating the true self. You are aligned with who you really are. You don't have to color things or behave or you don't behave differently than you are, and that attracts. That's in my experience, that attracts people a lot because they like that energy, your energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And I think, actually, I've watched an Instagram reel about one question. What is the greatest irony of life?
What is it?
Well, the answer from that Instagram reel is the attraction of abundance, despite the fact you already have enough of it already. Like, you already have enough wealth, but yet more wealth comes your way. You already have enough friends, but more friends come your way. And for those who have so little of that, no matter how hard they try, they just can't seem to get even a speck of it.
Yeah.
Unless you already have that to begin with, it's going to be hard to get what you want. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That all seems unfair. It's also like unfair that if you're afraid of something like spiders or dogs or other things, then fear seems to attract like a magnet. Once you're in that state of fear, it comes to you. Dogs that can sense that you are afraid of them, they come to you instead of leave you alone. It sounds like unfair in that way as well. That there's a certain tipping point which you have to reach either by what you say it is wealth or abundance in a certain area, and whereas it tips the other way around, then you get more and more and more. You know, I have enough.
yes, that's true. Then now comes down to, for those who want to get what they want, how do we give them this advice to find the most efficient way to get what it is they want, despite the fact the person that has so much of it and still comes their way, they don't know how they got themselves into that position to begin with.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it depends, of course, on your worldview and other things that people think about. But if you compare, and it's not about comparing people to Jesus, but if you are Jesus and you're walking around, let's say, normal people that are not enlightened, or another guru, whatever you, or another messiahs, there's a huge difference. But the messiahs, the guru, doesn't know what's different because he or she is just used to that. If you, as a grown up or an adult, walk through a kindergarten, you see all these toddlers playing. And of course, they are in their own world, but you know there's a huge difference between what you can do and what you perceive and what they do. And there's time because they have to grow up and they will at some point have the same experience as you have. But at that point, there's a large experience gap and perception gap. But for us, as grown-ups, as adults, it's natural what we do and perceive. So indeed, you are just used to that. And I think I'm not sure if it's about advising people the most efficient way, because sometimes the inefficient way is the most attractive one or the most interesting one, or sometimes brings the real gold, whereas efficient way sometimes makes it bland or dull. But that differs per way, of course. But I think it's always about trying to get to yourself, your own identity. Who are you? Following your heart and making sure that whatever you feel and think about yourself, and if it's not positive how you feel about yourself, hopefully that you're able to change that. But if you're in a state that you are able to say, well, I even love myself, and that I think is already hard for a lot of people, and then to radiate that out in the world and see what happens, to just change, start with any small change, be grateful for anyone that passes you at a given day, and say hello to them. And of course, that's hard to do if you live in a city like New York with hundreds of thousands of people crossing you every day. In a village, that's easier. But just saying hello to the people that help you or thank you, even at the coffee shop or at the bus, or people that just doing you the service that they should give you, but then trying to get them to just to make sure that you value them and that you know that they are that you see them, that you value them.
Yes, absolutely. And even though there will be people that still would have unfavorable opinions about you regardless, the least we can do is be a positive attribute in their lives. So at least these negative views can like reduce and dampen a bit.
Yeah.
So it just is better for all of us.
And then you started Opinionistics, like this is a platform for many things, but it brings a positive vibe and energy into the world.
Yes, I have, for at least for the last 2 years, maybe almost three, I have interviewed many guests around the world, mainly in the US, but of course Canada, the UK. I had a few in Brazil, and of course I had a handful of Dutch guests as well. And there's one or two that's living in Germany, one presumably Italian, and yeah, I've so many guests around so many countries.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like an extension of you. In that light, and what we just discussed, I'd like to ask you something, and just that's because also I'm trying to get it out into the world. As I wrote about a girl changing the world, this story, but also my own story is about also feminine energy, and you talked about yourself being the magnet to the feminine. In my view, and that's also just a view, so correct me if you think differently or if you agree. The world is ruled by man and masculine energy. It has been so for millennia, at least 2 or 3 millennia going backwards. And I think our world is out of balance for a long time. And what I think is what we need if we want our world to be available for future generations in a state that we, well, think it is still inhabitable for a large group of people, we need to change a lot. And I think the change we really need to make is that we get back to equality of the feminine and the masculine. And it doesn't mean 50-50% of people in board positions and 50-50% men and women in politics, because the system is still based on masculine principles and masculine rules that favor the masculine energy and favor the masculine capacities and are in disfavor of the feminine ones. So I actually preach for a total reset of the system, and that's easy to preach for and it's hard to, of course, to implement. But in my view, we need feminine leadership and feminine energy and women to take charge and control of a lot of things in the world, because men, the things, the people that threaten our planet and our civilization are the outcasts, like the dictators, and a lot of men that are just acting in favor of their own ego, their own power, their own position. Is that something that you also can relate to, or do you think differently? I'm just interested in that.
But actually, you are absolutely spot on with that point. Like for years, decades, and of course centuries, the world has been run by men and people of masculine energy. And of course, it is important to give someone with feminine energy or women in general a chance to be in the same position as men in certain jobs. Of course, I will argue that we shouldn't just give positions to women because they're women. We want to give
No.
positions to women because they have the skill set, they have the intelligence, and they know enough knowledge in the subject to do as good as men can. So, of course, there has to be some kind of competition, but of course, we need to allow it to be open for people of all backgrounds a chance to prove what skills and intelligence and what knowledge they have on the subjects to contribute to society in general.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think that is even sometimes the case that some, if you're competing for some kind of positions, like in politics, politics is a system where what we see, especially in the US, but also in Europe, we get polarization, black and white thinking. You're with me or against me. I'm right, you're wrong. That's the whole debate always. It's never about finding a common ground and trying to work together. Like in ancient societies, the elders would run the society together and try to find solutions and strategies for everything in doing that together. And at least in the Netherlands and a kind of Northern Europe, like Scandinavia, we have a history of at least 100, 150 years where there's much more focus upon the common good and a common ground instead of just favoring for one party. But it also starts to crackle a little bit maybe in these days. But I think that system, especially politics, is so based upon competition and the one always turning the other down or taking the other down in a comparison and making the other one look like shit, look bad. I think that system attracts in many cases people, also women, with more masculine characteristics, because you have to survive in that climate, and you cannot survive by looking for the common ground, because then no one will listen to you. People listen to you when you're just polarizing and trying to make it more extreme every time. We see that, of course, in the US elections. But I hope that system is also able to change.
Yes, absolutely. And that's something that I also think is important to note is when you see politicians trying to tell people what plans they have for the country and their local community, most of which I have seen is just pinning down the opponents. I do not like any of that whatsoever. I understand that you're going to have different opinions and may not agree with stuff, but if your whole campaign is to pin your opponent down, you're doing it all wrong. What's important is telling people what plans you have once you get into power and what contributions would you have that affects people's lives positively.
And find a solution that's good for everyone, or a large group, and not yeah. We agree on that. Nice to hear you saying that way, and I just hope we're able to change something of that current system, because I think I'm a very positive person. The way I sense you, you are too. But I think in the current climate and the things we see, it's quite hard to think of an outcome that where there would be a lot of things solved in the world that we see today, and a lot of wars and battles ended. Um, in the current climate, the current years, it only seems to intensify and become bigger. And of course, those are always waves that go up in intensity and then later go down. But this feels like, whoa, this is really not the direction we want to go.
Yes, absolutely. There may be limitations and there will be obstacles along the way, but
Yeah,
once you can overcome them, the rest should be just fine.
I like what you're saying. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So, where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
Yeah, I try no, I try. Think of myself as someone with a small ego, and I know that sometimes you need an ego. Of course, you need an ego to exist in this world. But I would love to be able to, in 20 years of time, to just be able to. I'll be 70 then, to be a semi-wise man, helping people on these topics, and having made at least a bit of tangible change in the process that we talked about, and at least also appealing to a group of women to be able to make them stand up. Because what I sense is that in the current climate, also women sometimes are keeping each other down. They profess sisterhood, but a lot of women don't want to work with groups of women, because they feel that's negative energy, and they're getting positive energy from working with men. So I think there's something to be solved within the feminine realm, so to say, but that's quite abstract. So in 20 years of time, I would love to be known as, at least, and not for my ego, but just for the fact that I think this message has value and needed to be spread, as quite of a bestseller author of 2 or 3 books about this girl and this feminine energy, and having helped a bit in changing the world to a situation where there's real equality and real balance between men and women, with the feminine and the masculine. And anything between the men and women, anything we call it today, and even more than we want to call it tomorrow, everything becoming fluid and just well.
Yes, absolutely. How did you spend your last birthday?
By solving my jet lag, I went to California for Burning Man, the festival, or the 1 week mini society in Nevada desert. I'm not sure if you know it.
Ah, very nice.
And I just came home for my birthday, and was just happy to be back home with my 4-year-old son, my 16-year-old bonus daughter, my wife, and just being back from the desert, and that experience, which is always a magnificent and wonderful experience for me.
Fantastic. If your life was a meal, what kind of meal would it be?
Wow, it would be a it would be a nice meal. It would be a nice meal, 5-course meal with the things I like. The things I like because I've chosen from a young age to see the positive and the light in life and the sunshine and make it happen not only for me but for everyone around me and by being positive and not extremely positive if things are going a different way, but by just always emphasizing the positive and emphasizing the positive outcomes and the possibilities that there are. So this meal would be very delightful. There would be, I'm sorry, it wouldn't be vegan. There would be some fish and some meat in it and some vegetables, but I just love not spoiling, but giving my senses something to feast about. And this is just about any. There's so many wonderful tastes. So it would be a 5-course meal with a lot of variation.
Very nice, very nice. Would you rather speak all languages or talk to animals?
Ooh, that's a nice one. Oh wow. Oh wow, yes. All languages sound tempting, but talking to animals, what world would that open? That would be so amazing to know what they know, because animals are so serene and wise. If you work, for instance, or have worked with horses, you know what they can do. But talk about whales, dolphins, any animal, of course. There's the latter. Then talking with animals, that would be, oh wow, that life would be too short.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
If you were hosting a dinner party and you can invite 5 guests who are either dead or alive, who would it be? Who would they be?
Ooh, now we're talking. Thinking about Cleopatra, I would love to sense that energy, her energy. Would love to invite, and that's a strange one, but Ronald Reagan. I was I was conscious when he became president, and we all thought in Europe, how crazy can it be that an actor becomes president? But in today's climate, it would look like, please, if he could come back, it would make such a difference in the world by his energy and by his tone of voice. So that would be a second guest. I think the third one would be someone known. I think a real magical woman from the Middle Ages, like someone a real what we call witch in a positive way, a woman that works with nature and is able to. So someone who was burned in the witch hunts in Europe and was able to talk with animals, really talk with animals. Those people are so. I think then I would invite my grandfather, who was my inspiration for looking at spirituality in my life. And in the last, I would, that sounds strange, but I know that when my wife and I wanted to become pregnant and we had 7 miscarriages, one of those miscarriages was a soul that I knew. It sounds abstract or strange maybe, but the book that I wrote is about Lisa, and Lisa is the daughter that I would never know and have never known in my life, but I know she exists. So I would like to invite her. She existed at some point in time, and I would like to invite her to experience her.
Yes, absolutely. And that is all we have for this episode. It's great having you on, Machiel, talking about your book, your journey, and of course the discussions about allowing feminine energy a chance to go across many specifics around the world. It's been a brilliant conversation.
Well, thank you. I really I like what you do. I like the way the interaction we had and your questions. And thank you for having me on this show, on this podcast. And again, a deep bow and namaste for all that you do, for making our world a nicer, better place. And I just love what you do. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And until next time, stay
Until,
opinionated.
all right.